It is Monday. Today we're talking about HR Madness Monday. That's what we call it. All your questions will be answered about human resources and anything HR related. That's what we're going to talk about today. As always, my name is IanTheHRPro, and you are watching the IanTheHRPro live podcast. Not scary at all. So, I am now streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch. These are the places where I'm going live. And I will do update clips on all of those except for Twitch. Twitch doesn't allow me to put the snippet things from this live broadcast. I do put those on TikTok also. And I don't think Instagram allows me to post reels. Not yet. It said soon. Anyway, I use a program called Restream.io. And this program is just so amazing. It's in the browser. It allows me to do everything right in the browser. Excuse me. Gotta have some tea. That is hot. That is way too hot. That is Earl Grey hot. I am no Captain Picard. I cannot drink it hot. So we'll try to let it cool down a little bit. Although if I start getting a raspy voice, that's your fault, not mine. So I'll have some plain old water to get us started. Monday, so obviously I was not live last Monday because I had to facilitate a workshop over to lunchtime, and it was, a lunch and learn like this, but it was an Indigenous history workshop, and it's covers 500 years of history here in North America, but it's only 45-minute condensed, basically just point form, hitting the major points. And unlike when I facilitate the Kairos blanket exercise, it doesn't allow me the time to share my personal stories or my family stories about Indigenous history. So today is HR. I was excited about this morning, but I did have a bunch of work I was trying to get done first thing this morning. I also work on policies for organizations, so that policy work tends to take up a lot of my time. That's fine, but I got one finished this morning, so that's awesome. And if you have questions, ask your questions in the comments, please. Comments or the chat feature, whatever you happen to see on wherever you're streaming from, whether that's LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or Twitch. I'm new to Twitch. I just started live streaming to Twitch on this past Friday, and so I'm checking it out. I don't know what the response time is for Twitch, or the other platforms are a little delayed. When someone makes a comment, it takes like a couple minutes for me to see it in Restream.io so I have my chat here that I can show you. New comments will display here, so I could leave that up all the time, or I can keep it personal. And there is, on some platforms, I do have it set to vet or block negative comments. So try not to use any provocative words when you're trying to comment. Just keep it plain and simple. Ask your question, and I should get it, so I can answer your questions. Just checking to see if there's something that I'd like to share. Monday, HR. Anything HR related, human resources related, let's chat about them. Let's talk about them. If you want to come on the show sometime, or even right now, I can send you an invite link, and then you'll be able to connect, and we can talk about your business. You'll get some free advertising for your business, and you'll also give yourself some content, and you'll give me some content, and we'll be able to talk about some of your HR issues. And depending on the day of the week you want to join the show, so Mondays I do human resources, Tuesdays I do Indigenous allyship, Indigenous relations stuff, and Thursday I do gigs and hustles. So we talk about side gigs, side hustles, and a lot of marketing type stuff to market your small business. And Thursday we do Career Club. Career Club is all about resumes and cover letters and job applications, job searches, whatever you need, support for interviews, things like that. Like that's all the stuff we talk about on Thursdays. And on Fridays is fun and games. Basically, I'll talk about anything and everything that day. But I do enjoy talking about games and movies and music. We could talk about music. And, I'm a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a big fan of Magic the Gathering. And I just love board games. We got some friends. We go over and play board games with them. I was there on Saturday visiting these friends, and it was the husband and their teenage son who is really getting into strategic games, and I got to play the game Arcs for the first time. It was a really fun game. It was a really good game. And I'll talk more about that on Friday, maybe. Maybe even talk about strategy. Nope, that tea is still not cooled down enough. Woo! Woo! Anyway, burn my face off. I gotta have some regular water. I'm trying to get the tea, so I'm all jacked up for the show. I did a little cleanup in my background, sorted some stuff out, put some stuff on the wall, some of my degree, my management degree from the University of Lethbridge, and my human resources certificate from the University of Grant MacEwan, and my principal's award for dedication to the school and the community, and that's from high school, and some elementary school awards. They were academic awards. No, I wasn't really a brainiac back in elementary school and high school, but hey, what the heck. In high school, I became more active in politics. I mean, my favorite class was actually social studies in high school. So I kind of got interested in politics and things like that. So that's kind of me. Anyway, and of course, picture of me and my wife, that's got to be up there. And of course, I got I like to say, collector's edition Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead. Some of my favorite books. My office cactus that needs no watering. Yes, it is a stuffed cactus. And I got some stuff here from my sister's business. This is a 3D printed dragon behind me. And a little tiny Aussie. And just some other stuff. Cup from Vulcan, Alberta. Are you out of your Vulcan mind? It says on that cup. And little saxophone player that a coworker brought back from New Orleans for me. So that's fun stuff. And I'm trying to see, do I need to put more stuff? Maybe I need to adjust some stuff. I don't know. I feel like something's missing over here above the light. But I was also thinking of putting a light over here. Anyway. Anything in the chat? Nothing in the chat. Nobody wants to chat about anything. I hate having to make stuff up. Oh my god, I forgot music. Gotta have some music. What should we have? We should have some. Let's do. I don't know. There's something about atmosphere. I wish there was a sound that was like future tech sounds or something. Anyway, let's turn that down a little bit. So we got a bit of background noise now. I've got background noise here at the house. Oh my god, this window is right here. So I get a lot of natural light on my bed side. And I have a light stand on this side to light me up. But there is some construction going on right across the road in front of our house. There is ripping up the sidewalk. So there's a big excavator out there all day. And just behind our house is on the next block over, but connected on our alley, 2 houses over. They've ripped down the house and they're digging a new foundation. They're putting in one of those 8-plex monstrosities in the middle of the neighborhood. Now, in the front of our house is a major road, so we expect noise. We expect the houses to disappear eventually and apartments go up. But in the neighborhood, well, sideways 8-unit, I would have to call it an 8-plex, but if it was at the end of a row, it would be facing the side street, and you would say, oh, that's a townhouse, that's a townhome, right? But this one, instead of facing the street, it's facing the neighbor's house on both sides. So you have these 4 to 8 units all with windows in your backyard. So I don't know. I do believe in density in downtown Edmonton. We do need to get more apartment buildings, but we do need to get more density in the single family home lots. But can't we find a halfway point? Instead of ripping down the original house, how about we support owners to create a basement suite and to create a garden suite, aka garage suite? So there could be 3 homes on one lot, and the yard, the house, everything would still kind of look like just a single family home yard. And compared to these 8-plex, sideways 8-plex monstrosities, I do prefer the skinnies, where they come in, they buy a regular lot, they rip down the house, they rezone it into 2 skinny lots, and then they put a skinny in. The skinny is usually 2 to 3 stories, so it is taller, but it's a single family home. I know in some of the areas they did that. They split it up and they actually built income suites, garage suites behind each unit. So there's actually 4 houses on the original lot, 4 homes on the original lot. And with a skinny, you could also do a basement suite. So you could turn one traditional size single family home lot into, split it in 2 and put 3 units on 6. So you could get six homes on one lot. And the skinnies do look a little more traditional, a little more like how the neighborhood was. So it's pretty amazing, because 5 years ago we were complaining about the skinnies coming in, but now Now I'm thinking those skinnies are okay because of these different buildings they're putting in. Ay, ay, ay. Anyway, ask me a question. Ask me an HR question. If you're a small business owner, ask me a question about HR, any issues you got going on. You can certainly say it's hypothetical so nobody knows that you're having an HR problem with your business. What else do I got here? Just checking, see if there's a fun link I can put up. Not really. Oh, here's one of my favorite designs. I do designs. It's my creative release. I do create the occasional design for t-shirts and coffee mugs and stickers and more. I put all my designs on TeePublic, and there's a QR code on the screen that you could scan right now, or search for my store. It's just called IanTheHRPro, just like this podcast name. And my favorite, because I'm such a big Aliens fan, Alien movie franchise, so I created a t-shirt that says, "In space, HR can't hear you scream." So, I mean, that's a good play on the movie. I really enjoy it. I don't know if it's on sale right now. TeePublic handles all the sales on that, on my TeePublic store. So sometimes things are on sale, sometimes they're not. I think the regular price for this t-shirt is $28. But a big seller on my TeePublic store is "Leaders Win When the Team Wins." This design, you can also find it with this QR code on the screen, or the link will show up in the chat on some of the platforms. So that's always good. Trying to think, we should pick a topic to talk about with HR. I'm kind of leaning towards a chart I've created, and my big thing is, I know small business owners are scared to spend money on HR. One, because they feel they know what's going on, and I just want to stress to small business owners, you may be an expert in what you do and what your business is doing, but it's okay to ask for a little help and a little support when it comes to human resources. Because I've seen small business owners make mistakes, and they seem to think they're doing well, and I'm just sitting there kind of in the cringe zone. Like, oh my god, maybe you're not doing so well. But I certainly want to talk about that. And how much do you want to spend on human resources? Right? So let's open a new browser window, and I'm going to open up the document. Give me a moment. This document is actually a chart. A chart of how much a small business owner should spend on HR. And I do share it with some people, and I do give it as a bonus when certain ebooks are purchased off me and stuff like that. So let's give it a share. I'm going to get rid of the QR code on the screen for my t-shirt. Don't need that. So let's share the screen. Share my window. How'd that show? I don't like when I'm small like that. So let's go like this. I like that better. So here's my chart. How much money should you budget or spend on HR by number of employees you have? Is it just me, or does the sound seem a little bit loud? I'm gonna turn that down. Maybe I just have it cranked up on my computer. Anyway, so how much should you budget or spend on HR by number of employees you have? Now, I have made the chart based on the number of employees because when you calculate HR, the average HR professional within an organization is usually like 1 per 75 employees. So as soon as you get to about that 50 to 75 employee range, you start thinking, oh, should I have a full-time HR working for me, right? And because at that point, the amount of work that the HR department needs to do may be overwhelming you as the owner and the only manager, or maybe you've handed it off to one of your managers that does something else, a different type of manager, whatever role your business is about, right? Maybe you've handed it off to them. They're not an HR expert, they're just a manager. So at some point, 50 to 75 employees, the amount of HR work is just going to overwhelm someone who's also doing another full-time job. So I made this chart, and it's based on the number of employees. I want to make it bigger, but then I want to shrink it. Anyway, so if you have 1 employee, right? You have 1 tiny little employee. Your budget per year and per month, so we have per year budget and per month budget, lets you look at what you should be spending. So if you have 1 employee, so you as the owner are working in the business and you have 1 employee, you should spend about $85.60 per month on some sort of HR support for you, whether that's actually consulting in HR, or you've accessed some sort of HR service or something like that, right? Or you've got something that will help you with HR issues. So there's a lot of HR consultants out there that would be willing to take your $85 a month and, give you a monthly meeting or answer your questions via email, things like that. So, and I did make this chart for both Canada and US, but I'm just going to talk Canadian money because most of my followers are Canadian, but you can see on the chart the US numbers right next to it. So when you get to 10 employees, this is kind of a game changer, right? Obviously, you should be spending more per month on the HR, and certainly a lot more per year on HR when you think about the ratio of 1 full-time HR person for about every 75 employees. That's usually what it is. If you have 100 employees, you usually have like 1.4 HR people, or people in your HR department. And I'm just trying to keep an eye on the chat. If anyone wants to ask an HR question, go ahead, interrupt me. We'll talk about that instead. So when you get to 10 employees, you change from just being an owner with HR support. You become an owner with HR support, or a non-HR manager with HR support. So you've got 10 employees. One of them is a new manager to help you manage these 10 people. And you've given the role of HR to them. So you've offloaded some of this work to this manager. But this non-HR manager should also have some support. So the same support system that you had put together before, or possibly something even better. Sorry, I keep looking away from the camera. Oh, there's a bird. I keep looking away from the camera because I'm looking at me on the side screen and I keep forgetting to look at the camera. I've actually got a sticker up here on top of my camera that says, "Look here." Oh, that's better. That's better. It's not burning my face off anymore. My tea. So yeah, when you get to about 10 employees, it's time to get some support. And that support is having a non-HR manager. So your organization, you might have a night manager, or a sales manager, or something like that. Like whatever, as your business grows, as you are trying to duplicate yourself and or just taking work off yourself as the owner, you're doing everything, and at some point some section of your work is going to just overwhelm you, and that's the point to say, let's bring in a manager or assign this work to someone else. Because you, as the owner or the primary of the organization, your job is to build your business, right? The old work on your business, not in your business. So whatever your business might be at this point, 10 employees, if you're a mom and pop corner convenience store, at this point, you no longer run the till. You have enough staff members to run the till. And since you're not going to be there all the time, you now assigned a store manager or an assistant manager. And this person is now handling a whole bunch of your daily work with management, and you've also unloaded, and you're possibly unloading some of your HR responsibilities to them. Yeah, because now you, as the owner, you are working to build your business, whatever those tasks might be, to grow your business. That's now what you're concentrating on. And each time some part of your role as the owner and the business builder, each time each one of those tasks overwhelms you, you need to break it off and say, here's a new manager to handle it, or here's a new assistant manager to handle it, whatever you might do. I see someone chatted. Nikita just stopped in. Thanks for stopping in. Oh, the spammer's back. Thank you. Thank you, Twitch spammer. I believe this is a different name of the spammer from Friday. And they always type in cheap viewers on steamboo.com. It says remove the space. So if you want cheap viewers, go to steamboo.com. Shout out to Steamboo, who is spamming me on Twitch. Excellent. Someone made a comment I love that. It's a spammer, but they made a comment. Thank you, thank you. It's probably a bot. It's probably a bot. Twitch probably knows it's a bot, so it probably doesn't count to like people being interactive with my live podcast. Oh, that Earl Grey tea hits the spot. Well, Nikita, you should have just asked us an HR question instead of just stopping in. But thanks for stopping in. I'll try to leave that open to see new comments come in. Where were we? We're talking about getting to 10 employees, right? And you're slowly, it's kind of, with a business, the owner, you are an onion. And every time a layer of work becomes too much for you as the business owner, you peel it off and you give it to someone else. And that's kind of the same with the HR. You can peel that off, because at some point it's going to start becoming a larger task. And even with about 10 people, it's kind of a larger task. So when you get to 14 people, this is kind of another, what's the word? Some sort of special point. You've just got so many people now asking HR questions or having HR issues within your organization. Maybe you're starting to onboard people more often. If you've got 14 positions you're trying to fill, then not everybody's staying in those positions. So all of a sudden you're running hiring competitions more often, things like that, right? Just the daily questions start coming in, what are my benefits? Or there's an issue on my paycheck or whatever. Well, you might give that to your finance crew and not the HR crew. But at 14 people, you should have a budget of over $1,000 per month to spend on HR support. So you could still be the owner who has HR support, or you have your non-HR manager with HR support. And either one of those situations, you might also have an HR consultant to come in on projects. So you're just like, I need employee handbook created, because now we've got 14 plus employees. So you're going to hire an HR consultant. You're going to say, hey, over the next couple of months, I'll pay you $1,000. You create a handbook for me. So they'll work with you and they'll create you an HR handbook. And at this point, you know a lot of stuff about your business, and you've got 14 employees. So you're kind of feeling out, what things do I need to really put into my employee handbook, right? So, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. You have this HR consultant kind of coming in for little projects just to help you. Every time you come into something, maybe you're actually sitting down for a couple-hour meeting with them, or maybe your non-HR manager is not necessarily you as the owner. This could be something that you've delegated, right? And then the next big bump is about 25 employees. And at this point, your monthly budget should be about $2,100. That makes your yearly budget just shy of $26,000. Still not enough to have a full-time HR employee. Now, you could have a part-time HR assistant, or you could even call them a recruiter. But this person kind of is handling the continued work. Sorry, I'm just burping here. And I'm burping everything. There's bodily functions. This is a live podcast, so there's a lot of bodily functions going on. I apologize. So you could hire this part-time HR assistant with HR support. So again, you've designated this part-time person. Maybe they come in half days, or maybe they just come in a couple days a week, but they're doing HR. They're just doing HR stuff when they're there, but they do have access to the same HR support that you've set up. And at the same time, you may continue having larger HR projects where you bring in your HR consultant to do that. So it's kind of a mix. You don't want to dedicate big money, and certainly not more than $26,000 per year or $2,100 per month to a permanent HR advisor, because that is a big overhead. That's why, big corporations are always cutting HR first, because they see HR as an internal overhead situation. So you don't want to be in that situation where you've got a lot of overhead to help you with the HR function within your organization, and then all of a sudden business goes down and you got to cut them, right? You want to make sure you're gradual with this. If you have got 10 employees or less, you shouldn't have an HR, just someone dedicated to HR. Or certainly not an HR advisor, someone who's certified, someone with the HR degree like me. You don't want to hire me at this point, because one, you probably can't afford me, because $25,000 is about a quarter of what you should be paying me. So HR assistant, absolutely. Doing the paperwork, doing your basic stuff, helping with onboarding. That's the type of stuff you have them doing. And you have your occasional HR consultant helping with the bigger projects that you have to do, creating big policies, or maybe you bring them in now and again to help you with interviews for new staff. So it'd be you, your HR assistant, and your HR consultant for a couple hours, just interviewing people, right? I've done that before as an HR consultant. An local organization has brought me in for a day just to help do interviews, because they were shorthanded for that. The executive director needed a bit of support. So, Mark Kenneth, it's a fun name. Okello. Thanks a lot, brother. All right, well, thank you too. Okello is on Instagram. Not Instagram. Oh my God, I can't talk. Okello is on LinkedIn, where he made his comment. So thank you for watching the show from LinkedIn. I do have a lot of connections on LinkedIn, like just over 12,000 connections on LinkedIn. But because of the change in the algorithms, hardly anybody sees my content. It's content that's king. So you got to be posting 3+ times a day on your socials, on as many socials as you possibly can do, and go live as often as you can so you can interact with your community, and post something completely random each day. Something not, this is my business, come support my business. That's why I do Fun and Games Fridays, because I'm talking about stuff that's just completely unrelated to my business, right? I'm talking about games and music and movies and all this stuff. It's got nothing to do with my business. But if you are an Alien fan and you need HR support, maybe you'll call me up first, because not only will you get HR support, you'll get a lot of terrible jokes related to Alien. That's the good stuff right there. Earl Grey tea. I'm getting down to room temperature so I'm not burning my face off. Anyway, we were at about 25 employees. At this point, yes, hire some part-time support, but continue the support for them or some sort of HR consultant to come in and just do one-off projects, because you can't afford a full-time at this point. Now, there's one caveat. If your organization is making really great money with only a small number of employees, then it may be beneficial because you can afford it. If you can see that your business will continue making a large amount of money with fewer employees, absolutely at any time bring in that HR professional to help you out, because that is such a big load off of you so that you can concentrate on building your business instead of working in your business, right? And just the advice that an certified HR advisor can give you is top notch. And if you're willing to take proper advice as the business owner, then yeah, get that HR professional in there. But if you're going to spend money on a full-time HR advisor and not take their advice, then you're just wasting money. These are skilled people. They are experts in human resources and the people side of your business and how to keep your employees happy, right? This is what they do. This is why you bring in an HR person. And if you're not willing to be open and to learn, then you're wasting your time having the HR person there. The HR person is not your organization cop. They're not your new employee supervisor. An HR manager only manages their own department. If you have more than one person in your HR department, HR is not the cop that's going to walk around your business and make sure your employees aren't on their phone or scrolling, right? That's not what HR does. You and your regular managers, you are supposed to be supervising all the employees that are doing work within your organization. So, not HR's job. So we can scroll down. There's another major change here at about 47, 48, 50 employees. At this point, you should have enough revenue to hire a full-time HR assistant. So this is someone who's there 5 days a week, and they take a big load on. Oh my God, there's some loud rumbling with the construction right now in my neighborhood. I'm getting it from both sides, so I can hear this loud rumble right now. It's driving me nuts. So at this point, you're moving from a part-time HR assistant to a full-time HR assistant, and they may even, at this point, you might want to be considering an entry-level HR advisor. So this would be someone who is currently working towards their HR degree, or have just newly graduated and have no actual HR experience. Like, this is where you might consider that person to come into your organization, but they're still HR assistant. But as that person learns, gains experience with you, and or they finish off their degree, while they're with you, this is the person that you may promote into the HR advisor role or the HR generalist role. TTT. But again, on the very basic level, you got full-time HR assistant, still getting their HR support from somewhere, and occasionally you're bringing in that skilled HR consultant for projects. Now, when I say skilled HR consultant, I'm talking about someone with 10 plus years, maybe got their own consulting firm going, they work for themselves or something like that. They have a lot of experience and they're just coming in and doing little projects for you here and there. The cost $500 to $10,000, right? That's what you would be paying your HR consultant. Be prepared for that. If you're thinking you want to transition your HR consultant to be an employee, be prepared to pay the big money. An HR consultant with 10 plus years, the degree, they have their designation, their CPHR designation, or something like that. What are you looking at? Honestly, you're looking at about $100,000 a year for this person. So don't think that you could pick up your HR consultant who's been helping you for 50 grand, right? They're going to laugh in your face. They're going to be extremely insulted at that price. Insulted. So now we get down to about row 60 here. We get 57, 58 employees. This is where you can possibly get a part-time HR advisor, or you continue your full-time HR assistant who's transitioning into an HR role, and you're still using the HR consultant for projects. I hope that's visible. It's a little, oh my God, the rumbling here is insane. So this is where, okay, so you had that HR assistant who's getting their degree or something like that, and now they got their degree and they've been with you for like a year or something. Then you can transition them into an HR advisor role. And it's hard here because if you're transitioning someone, absolutely you're giving them a pay raise, right? But you're at the bottom end of the amount of money you should be paying for an HR advisor. That's why I say part-time HR advisor, because $59,000, $60,000 is the very bottom end of the money you should be paying for an HR advisor. Someone with very little experience, with their degree, possibly with their designation already. Like, they might not have their designation because if they got no experience, right? So you're looking at someone little experience and their degree. This is the zone you're in right now. This is the entry level person. And as you grow, that person will grow into the position. Yeah. And when you get to that 64, 65 employees, you should have a larger budget now, 60, 65,000. You could get a full-time HR advisor who doesn't have their designation, but they do have their degree, but they have very little experience. You're in the zone now for that. So I'm still saying part-time advisor with an HR consultant for projects. So you would be transitioning, right? And what we finally get to is about 75 employees. Now, if you look up the statistics, when I made this chart, when did I make this chart? Oh, about 5 years ago or something like that. The statistics say that organizations with 75 employees would have one full-time HR advisor. So this could be your full-time HR generalist. This is somebody who's doing all the work in-house. They have enough experience that they can cover the cost of your HR consultant that you had occasionally been bringing in. So this full-time HR advisor is now handling all the project work and the day-to-day work within the HR department. And even this is going to be a tough role. So at this point, because you gotta start them off at the base pay around 65,000 for a brand new person. But if you have someone with a little more experience, then that's going up into the 70s. And at this point, this person may not even have their designation, but maybe they've got a couple years experience, or it's that person that you slowly brought up from HR assistant, and now they're working on their designation as they still work with you. So, and avoid the term manager at all costs for all departments. The word manager should be reserved for people that supervise other people. They supervise a whole department. They supervise 5 to 20 people, right? That's a manager. I know some organizations and some roles will use stuff like account manager, and that might be accurate, as in this person manages an account, but it's not accurate when it comes to supervising people. So I would, wherever you have a manager name, use coordinator, use supervisor, use something other than the word manager. Manager means you have more to do with managing the people than actually doing the work. So when we talk about a sales manager or a finance manager, these people should have a team under them. So the sales manager has 8 to 10 salespeople working for them. The sales manager is not doing the daily grind of selling. The sales manager is not picking up the phone and making the calls to your clients. The sales manager is only concerned with the work getting done within their department or within their team, and they're supporting their team however they can. So even if you're using the word manager, the manager should also be more than one level away from the people actually doing the work. So if you have a salesperson, you should have 5 to 10 salespeople on each team, 5 to 10 of them, and these people report to the sales supervisor, to a sales supervisor. And then that sales supervisor reports to either, well, probably the sales manager at this point. So the sales manager could handle up to 8 to 10 sales teams. So they have 8 to 10 sales supervisors reporting to them. The supervisor role is like the second level support and the direct training person. The sales supervisor trains all the new salespeople, and anything that needs extra support gets escalated to the sales supervisor. The sales supervisor is an expert in sales, and their job is just to make sure that the team performs. So it's not about, oh, you're coming in late, oh, you're taking too much sick time. It is about, did you reach your sales goals? What sort of training, additional training do you need? Right? As soon as there's an issue, that sales supervisor bumps that up to the sales manager. Sales supervisor John says, my salesman Alex is having some issues coming into work. He's constantly late. So the sales supervisor says, all right, I will deal with it. Send him to my office. So Alex, the salesman, comes to the sales manager, who is dealing with management issues, which is managing people. The sales manager, when dealing with the sales supervisors, is only dealing with, how are your numbers? I need your numbers. We need to improve our numbers, right? Like, and do you need any support from me to manage your people, right? Like, it's like, it is, you're one step away from doing the actual work. Anyone with the title manager does not need to be an expert in what their department is doing, because the manager is managing the people. It is the salespeople and the sales supervisors that are dealing with sales. The sales manager is making sure that we've hired enough people for the sales team. We've given these people enough training. We're dealing with, oh God, I just can't think of the stuff. But I just want people to understand that the word manager should not be used unless that person is managing people. And a better definition is if they're managing people and they're at least 1 degree away from what those people are doing. Salespeople, sales supervisor, sales manager. They understand the sales process, yes, but they don't need to be expert salespeople. Your expert salespeople who are good at training, you upgrade, you promote them to the sales supervisor position. If you have an expert salesperson, you don't want to promote them. You want to make sure they are paid well so they will continue to make sales for the organization. It is okay if in the process of making sales, your salespeople make more money than the sales supervisor and even make more money than the sales manager. That is fine, because your salespeople create the business for your organization. Your salespeople, you treat them like rock stars, you pay them like rock stars, right? So, and the salespeople that have shown that they are team players and enjoy training other salespeople, that's the person that you bring into the sales supervisor role, because then you can benefit from their skills in training. A sales supervisor still might have a sales quota and they still might be doing the sales work. But half their day is training new salespeople and making sure that their salespeople are hitting their quotas, right? So when you finally get to this point, 75 employees, and you should have a budget of $70,000 plus to get your first HR advisor in, you do not call them HR manager, because they are not managing a department yet. So you hire them on as a full-time HR advisor, or you can call them an HR generalist. This person is the jack of all trades right now. They're helping internally to help your employees, and they're also running the hiring competitions. They're doing a lot of work. And it's past this point that when your HR advisor or HR generalist is having more issues, maybe your organization has a lot of turnover and you're running a lot of competitions, then you would get an HR assistant or recruiting assistant or something along that lines to support your HR advisor. Your HR advisor or your HR generalist should be reporting to you as the owner or an actual manager that you've designated. So your HR advisor is reporting to the operations manager, right? And one day you may need an HR manager. One day you may need multiple HR managers that report to the HR director, whatever director level, right? So if you have an organization that has an office in every province in Alberta, so you've got 10 offices, I'm not including territories here, so you have 10 offices, you will have possibly an HR manager at each office, depending on the size of the office. And that HR manager will supervise an HR advisor, an HR assistant, and maybe a recruitment assistant and a recruiter, right? So their HR department is 4+, so you need an HR manager. But if you don't have an organization that's set up like that, you have no reason to call your HR advisor HR manager. It's with all things, with all departments. You don't use that manager role, that manager name, unless that person is managing people, not managing the work, right? I think about certain industries, car sales. You talk about the sales manager. Well, maybe not so much the sales manager, but the finance manager. You're just going to a finance person within there. You're not actually going to the finance manager. They just call all their finance people finance managers. So it seems like you're speaking to somebody at a certain level, but they don't have a team. They don't supervise anybody, right? We have a lot of organizations where people want to get promoted just because they want to make more money. And if you have an employee who's excellent, they're an expert at what they do, you don't want to promote them because they're amazing at what they do. So you just want to give them more money, right? The example of salespeople, you give them a better cut of the sales, right? They get better. Maybe you increase their base pay a little bit, but you certainly increase their percentage they get for each sale, right? And that's something that you can control because it's not a permanent pay increase, but it is an increase in earnings. If you really need to promote somebody who's an expert in what they do, like a salesperson, and they want to get promoted to sales manager, then you have to put them through management training first. They don't get promoted and then take some management training. You need to teach them how to be a manager before they get promoted to a manager role. There's just because you're an expert in what you do doesn't mean you're an expert in managing people that do that job. It is a different skill. It's completely different. So you want to spend a lot of time training people before you promote them. So salesperson Alex wants to be promoted to sales supervisor or sales manager eventually. Well, if he's going to be sales supervisor, you've got to train Alex on how to train other people, because Alex needs to become an expert trainer, and they need to learn how to gauge everyone else's sales abilities and things like that if they want that sales supervisor role. And if a sales supervisor or a salesperson wants to move into that manager role, maybe you've got manager Ian, who is going to retire soon, 6 months, I'm retiring. We want to promote someone within into that manager role. Any of the sales supervisors have to start taking management courses or management training. They need to take turns shadowing what the manager is doing before they retire. The key is train them up before you promote them, because during the training, 2 things is going to happen, could happen. The first one, the person who's training for that management role might realize they don't want that manager role. It is totally different. They're not just getting paid more to continue doing their current job tasks. They're getting paid more to do a completely different job. And number 2, what could happen is, what is number 2? 1 is they realize they don't want the job. 2 is you realize that they can't handle the job. They don't have the skills to be the manager. And this process allows you to learn that beforehand. I mean, ultimately, if you really, if the person says, yeah, I love this management work, and they prove that they can do it, then I guess there is a third thing. You give them the promotion, right? Or you put them in competition with someone else who might be wanting the position. But by training first, you're able to identify the true new manager. So take the time to train. So stop sharing that. That's boring. It's me, full screen again. And I'm burping, and I'm drinking tea. So, I just read the comment here again. Cheap viewers on streamboo.com, right? I'm just like, I'm getting cheap viewers right now. I mean, I am paying for my restream.io account, and I'm streaming live on 5 social medias, websites, It's all free. I'm not paying for these viewers, what little viewers I have. And it's all about the content. If I make good content, then I'm going to get viewers. It doesn't matter what platform I'm on, but I certainly want to be on the primary main platforms that everybody is on. So, where are we? We're 1 hour and 10 minutes, and we talked about the levels of, how much you should be paying for HR based on the number of employees you have. And essentially, rule of thumb, this is across all industries. Hire your first full-time HR advisor at 75 employees. Before that, you can have any combination of part-time advisor, full-time HR assistant, or just using a consultant on projects. Like you have a lot of different options. You don't have to be locked in to that one overhead back office expense. And that's we see that everywhere. Organizations would rather give a one-time bonus than committing to a pay raise. And the HR professionals within your organization are going to advise you on how you should be handling things. I could say something, but at the same time, I don't know your organization. I would have to spend some time to know your organization, understand your revenue and your business model and things like that. Like, I'd have to understand that before I could definitively say. So that's why I have this chart. It's a general across all industries. Hire your first full-time HR advisor or HR generalist at 75 employees. You may do it sooner only if your organization is making enough revenue to cover that, and you can foresee the way your business is growing or your organization is growing, that you won't suddenly lose that revenue and have to lay off that HR person, right? But the idea is to offload as much HR work from you, the owner, or your non-HR manager, to an expert, or at least get expert support in some way. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a hard process, but I know as a small business owner, it is very hard to take advice or give up control that you don't agree with. And this is from just our lack of experience with these situations. And I think an owner that can kind of give up some of that control or take that blind advice, sometimes it's hard for the HR manager to relay to the owner or their manager, what the rationale is for doing something. And if you've listened to me, or in the future, I come from a place where I believe happy employees equals happy customers. So if your employees are happy, happy customers will show up. And we see this shows like Undercover Boss or Restaurant Impossible or Hotel Impossible, these types of shows where the expert comes in and just blows everything up. One of the main things they do find is that your employees aren't giving proper customer service. And a lot of times it's because the owner or the manager is a terrible owner or manager, and they're not making their employees happy. So the employees are always grouchy and slacking off, giving bad customer service, and you can't run a business like that. It is okay, if you straighten out yourself and you start trying to be a positive organization, making sure your employees are happy, then things should start falling into place. You will start getting positive reviews as opposed to all the negative reviews. I mean, it is hard to crawl out of a negative review situation. If you got, 100 reviews and 75 of them are less than 4 stars, I mean, that is a hard place to come out of, because you now need, 100 5 stars to get you out of that hole, to make it good again. And we know that a Google rating can make or break some organizations. A Google review is either gold or poison, right? You could have 10 amazing Google reviews, but then you have one bad review where they're giving you 1 star and they talk about just everything negative this person has experienced with you. Oh, that is such a hard spot to come out of. And it's funny. Owners would rather try to make a complaint with the review organization, so they're connecting with Google and they're like, I want this 1-star review moved. They would rather spend all their energy doing that and trying to tell Google to get rid of that 1-star review than just commenting and making a comment on that 1-star review. Oh, I'm sorry, David. That employee was unfortunately having a really bad day, and I apologize for that. We're taking steps to try to improve our customer service. I hope you will come back and give us another try. If you give me your email, I'll give you a discount code on your next purchase. Right? That. I mean, that's way better than spending 6 hours phoning Google and complaining, trying to get this 1-star review removed. Unfortunately, it's very rare that someone has put up some scam negative review. You can savvy customers can look at a negative review and know whether or not it's really valid. Now, how do they do this? When someone, say like me, makes a review on somebody's account or somebody's business, and I say, this is 1 star, this is the worst service I ever had. Now, you can see how many reviews I have made. So if I have only made 1 review, and this is the 1 review, a savvy customer can say, that looks strange. Now, if I make a negative review and they can see I've made 500 reviews on Google, they're instantly going to say, well, this is not a one-time spammer. This person has been making reviews other places and they're active. So they can click on me and see all the places I have done reviews. They can see all my previous reviews. And that will help them to gauge whether or not my review is relevant. So if I've made 500 reviews and I mostly give 4 and 5 stars and make positive comments like, the staff here were really great, I found the prices maybe a little high, but the quality was very good, that's a good review, right? So it's gonna mean more when I make a negative review, because I have made a lot of reviews and a lot of them are higher stars, maybe related businesses, because we go to different restaurants, so I give different restaurant reviews. If most of my restaurant reviews are 4 or 5 stars with good reviews, and I'm giving a negative review, and I'm the man who goes to a restaurant every night, there is some validity to it. I'm not just a scammer scamming to try to destroy your business. So in that case, you certainly want to say, oh, I'm sorry, Ian, that night we had some issues and we're working to improve it. Thank you very much for your feedback, and I hope you can come back and try us again in a few months and let us know if we've improved. And here's a discount code. Like, you have such an amazing opportunity to take these negative reviews as actual feedback. If someone is taking the time to give you a negative review, one, it is either a complete scam, but only consider it a complete scam if the person doing the review has no photo and they've only done one review and this is it, right? That could be a bot, that could be your competition trying to destroy you, right? But if your negative review is from someone who has a lot of previous reviews and they have a photo of them and their dog, and they filled out their profile a little bit, maybe take that one into consideration, right? That one is some positive, it's negative feedback, but it's positive for you because you get an opportunity to get the feedback. And I think with any business, you have to be open to that feedback. The owners, managers need to be open to the feedback. Feedback from clients, feedback from employees, and certainly feedback from your HR department. Your HR department is like, I can't even explain it. They're there to protect you by protecting your employees, because happy employees means happy customers. So I always go back to that. So take the advice of your HR advisor. Unless you've hired just some person who's some manager and they don't have any HR experience and they've never been in an HR role before, that person, I wouldn't exactly take their HR advice. But if it was an actual HR advisor who has an HR related degree and or certificate, and they've got 10 plus years as an HR advisor, then that's someone you should listen to. And unless they come from some sleazy company where they were absolutely scamming their employees, obviously, if you hire somebody, you should investigate the organization they come from and be straightforward about asking your HR advisor these questions. I heard that XYZ company that you come from was a terrible place to work. Can you explain that more for me? Right? And the HR advisor is either going to say, no, it's a pretty good place to work. They're just fucking lying. But if they come at you truthfully and say, that's why I left that organization. Everything I did, everything I tried to advise the owners to do they didn't agree with. So I couldn't make any improvements. This is the person you want to listen to. This is the person you probably want to hire. Because they're being honest. I'm just talking here. My throat's all growly. And my tea is now lukewarm, room temperature. And I'm done. Done the tea. So I've got nothing to soothe my throat anymore. So if anyone has any questions, please ask it in the comments. I'm going to be going offline soon. So if you've got some question coming up about HR, if you're a small business owner, want to ask that HR question, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Ask your question. If you are needing some HR support and you want to book a meeting with me, I usually give a 30-minute needs assessment, but this link takes you to my calendar link, and you'll get a 30-minute meeting for HR, Indigenous relations, or networking, or if you want to be on the podcast and we can talk about your business, get you some free advertising for your business or whatever. You know, let's do a meetup there. Follow my my QR code here and go to my calendar. Book a meeting with me. Now, I'm not giving that. This isn't free time for you to ask all these HR questions. You know, if you wanted to ask me an HR question, you should have done it here. But if you want to find out if I'm right for your business, or if I want to find out if I'm right for your business, then let's meet up and you can say what your issue is, and I will say yes or no, I can help you with that. And then we can start working together. And at that point, you start paying me, right? But certainly just 30 minutes. I may be able to give you some simple advice and say, hey, just do this. And then wait to contact me if something doesn't work out, right? But I'm certainly open for HR projects if you need something, if you need your policies created, or maybe you just need one policy, you need me to review a policy, we can get into a contract and get that work done. Yeah, even HR, Indigenous relations stuff, if you're having those sorts of issues, book the meeting there. If you got any value out of this live podcast today, this is Monday, HR Madness. We talked about HR. We talked about how much money you should spend on your HR advisor and at what point you should hire a full-time HR advisor. If you got anything good out of this podcast, please follow this QR code right here on the screen and give me a beautiful 5-star review, because Google reviews are still king in this world. I can almost guarantee you that anyone searching for your business or your service, if they're going through Google Maps, maybe they're local, they are looking at your reviews and they're deciding, oh, should I go to this pawn shop or that pawn shop? Oh, there's a bunch of negative reviews at this pawn shop and they're ripping people off, and at this other pawn shop, oh, there's mainly positive reviews. They're going to that positive one, man. So you gotta really work on them Google reviews. Anytime you have a happy customer, give them a card with a QR code or a link on it and say, hey, give me a 5-star review, buddy. Or have them do the review right there in front of you and then give them a discount. No, don't do that. Google frowns upon you paying for your Google reviews. So just anytime you have a good interaction with a customer, remind them to give them a Google review. something amazing you can do is get one of those boards, the clear plastic boards, and you put a piece of paper in there. You can even get radio frequency chip put in there that takes them, so they can either scan this QR code or they can just tap their phone next to your stand and it'll take them right to the Google review. So you just leave that by the till and you just be a happy person running your business, right? People will just naturally say, oh man, that place was nice. I have an example where I was working at a gas station for some friends of mine, and I don't even remember how long I worked there, 6 months or a year or something. Anyway, I was transitioning, and when I first started, there was customers who just hated me for some reason, and they were always grumpy and grouchy. I don't know, might have been racism because I'm indigenous. I got an indigenous looking face. Or just people are grouchy when they go to the gas station, right? Well, by the time I left there, people were asking about me after I left and were like, hey, where's the big guy? He was funny. So I guess once you get to know me, I'm funny and I give good customer service. Anyway, I want to give out a shout out to my sister's business. She's an indigenous craft person and she has crafts from my mother Millie, and her families all chip in on these crafts. And she goes to craft events like farmers market. I think she might be cutting that down a little bit, but certainly use this QR code to join her Facebook group and you can connect with her to get some of these authentic indigenous crafts. She has a 3D printer, and you can see in my background this green dragon with the purple tips. It's actually in this photo just beside the orange one I purchased from her that day. And it's kind of like a fidget toy. It moves all over the place. It's wicked cool, man. But she has all kinds of stuff. And of course my mother does beading and moccasin making if you're looking for that sort of, and you want that sort of thing, and you want to support an actual indigenous person as opposed to big business, right? That might be just scamming indigenous wares. So yeah, go there. Shout out my sister Joy and her Unbound Creations. So I hope people go there, check it out. And I'll turn that off. We are at 1 hour and 32 minutes. I think that's good for a Monday. HR Madness. So tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk about Indigenous relations, Indigenous allyship, everything Indigenous. Last week was National Day for Truth and Reconciliation here in Canada, also known as Red Shirt Day. I had my red shirt pin on. We went to the company Worley and did some Indigenous, we did the Kairos blanket exercise for them, and they gave us these amazing orange shirts with this amazing design. They made sure they got it from an authentic Indigenous person, and of course their name is on the back also. So it's nice that they gave us these t-shirts, and that was awesome. I was going to try to hang one up back there, but I don't know. But you certainly want to wear an orange shirt on September 30th each day, and to support, to be an ally and support your Indigenous friends and neighbors here in Canada. So yeah, I missed multiple lives last week because I was busy with facilitating the Kairos blanket exercise for these organizations that are working for their truth and reconciliation commitments. Worley itself is working through the pair certification with the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business. I'm a member. I'm an Indigenous member of CCIB, and Worley is working through their pair. They're not Indigenous owned, but they're working through their pair certification so they can be recognized as a true Indigenous ally. They are at the silver level. They're working on their gold level this year, so I'm really proud of what they're doing over there. They seem to be really concerned about this and bringing in people like me and my wife to consult with them and to show them and to train them and to teach them. That means a lot. That means a lot. So anyway, that's why I missed a couple of lives last week. That's why this live is number 5. Number 5 should have been last week, and we should be on to number 6 for Monday Madness. But this is only the 5th week that I could do Monday Madness here on the IanTheHRPro live podcast. Okay, gonna let everybody go. I will talk to you tomorrow. Ending the